also going to keep allowing people to enter, and we are also streaming live on Facebook. So those are our various platforms. Ria, whenever you're ready, we can begin speaking. To the speakers, I would recommend that when you all are not speaking, if you all can put yourselves on mute so that we don't have a risk of any external disturbances and nobody gets interrupted. That will be perfect. To all our participants who are attending and who will attend, I highly recommend that you freely use the chat box to introduce yourselves to each other, to ask questions to the panelists. We will make sure we go through them, and between Ria and I, we will ask one of the panelists to address your questions. So feel free to use the chat box, introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from. We have people from all over the country joining us today. So that is extremely exciting. All right. Ria? Perfect. Ria, let's begin.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Hi.
Mishri, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we shall begin. Good evening everyone. We welcome you to NewsNowNation webinar on learning what goes behind making a successful entrepreneur. I am Rhea from NewsNowNation and this is Mishri, my co-host for the evening. We are very excited to be a part of such a talented group of people. I welcome our audience as well who have joined us at various platforms. We have a chat box option available wherein you can request questions or comments for the panel. Thank you. We are joined today by our esteemed panelists and our very own keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker for today's evening is Mr. Dhawan, founder and director of Corefield Technologies. He is a strategic business planner and entrepreneur with decades of domain-rich experience in the fields of service management, staffing, facility services, fintech, etc. His company was founded in 2019 and is a Gurgaon-based company. FieldWeb is an advanced provider of specialized management software for the field services industry to track the operations of their company. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Moving on to our panelists, we have with us Mr. Neeraj Kumar, founder and CEO of Magnifique Group. He loves traveling, and that's primarily the reason he set up his own company. He is a sports enthusiast and absolutely loves cricket and swimming. He is a happy-go-lucky person and loves listening to music. His company believes in creating memories cherished for a lifetime. Their business is diverse and includes luxury travel, destination wedding management, bespoke events, and brand consultancy based in New Delhi, Dubai, and Jaipur. Welcome, sir. Moving on, I'm not sure if Mr. Roy is here. Is he here?
No, he is not here yet. No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's here. Okay, great. So we have with us next Mr. Mritunjay, who is the founder and CEO of Cognate Health Services. He is an economics graduate and MBA in sales and marketing from Sikkim Manipal University. He loves music and has a big collection at his house. He also loves playing cricket. Cognate Health Services is one of India's leading healthcare benefits company, enabling people to effectively manage their health and lead a happy life, providing access to preventive and health solutions. Welcome. Next, we have with us is Mr. Dhaval Shah, Managing Director of Furnitech Seating Systems. Started at the age of 19 years, he has been in the furniture industry for 24 years. As he has been traveling worldwide, he has expertise with various international tie-ups to offer the Indian market international products. His passion is reading and bringing innovation. His company, introduced for the first time in India, affluent and luxurious upholstered furniture in the form of exceptional created sofa sets, couches, sofa cum beds, recliners, and office chairs. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have with us is Mr. Sandeep Harbhajanka, who is the Director of People Power Human Resource Consultants. His company he has studied in Australia and received lots of medals for his social work and trekking. He is associated with the NGO called Roundtable India and conducted over 100 training programs. He runs his HR company, People Power, and is a corporate trainer by profession. He had a training practice in neuro-linguistic programming, based behavioral therapy, and counseling for individuals and families. Moving on to our last panelist for the evening is Mousumi Kalita Sachdeva, author and director of GRIFFIN Publication India. She is the author of 7 books, contributing author to 30 international anthologies, and an internationally acclaimed poet. She is an author coach, skill development trainer, a columnist, an internationally published poet, motivational speaker, and she is a revolutionary writer and social activist. She has been honored with Surya Gaurav Rashtriya Puraskar 2020 for her valuable contribution in the field of global literary acumen, skill development training, and missionary services for the community. We welcome you all to today's event.
Thank you everybody for joining us. We're extremely excited to have. We just heard Rhea. That was quite a panel we have. I think everybody here is super innovative. I think that's how I'm going to describe the panelists. Yeah, it is a very wide spectrum. So I hope this conversation helps anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur in whatever space they. Whatever space they fancy. So again, on behalf of Rhea, me, and the rest of the NewsNowNation team, thank you so much for being here. Before we start and get to know each other a little bit more, maybe we can start with Mr. Dhawan. Sir, if you could just start with giving a short introduction about yourself beyond what Rhea has already told us, and tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur. We would be very happy to hear. Yes, sir, Mr. Dhawan.
He has to be allowed to speak, I think.
Okay. All right.
I think he's on mute.
Him?
He's on mute, I think.
Okay. How about we will figure that out. I'm sure somebody from the NewsNowNation technical team will help figure that out. Maybe till then, Neeraj sir, since you have managed to unmute successfully, maybe we can start with you and get to know a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Okay. Thank you, NewsNowNation, for this lovely opportunity. It's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of this august gathering of entrepreneurs, even though I feel that I'm, somebody who is very much new to the journey of entrepreneurship. So I started my journey in 2017, and I started with events. So we started with luxury events, and then I moved on to luxury travel. I built a product which does provide travel for foreigners who are willing to explore India and Indians who wanted to go abroad. But this is primarily very much into luxury space. We do not, we are looking at people who are looking at escort services, a nice boutique stay, hotel, guides, stuff like that. So that is the kind of space that we work in. We work very closely with a lot of embassies in India, to name a few, like the US Embassy, the French Embassy, the British Embassy, etc. And also a lot of corporates for their events part. We have been able to do quite a bit of good work, I would say, in the last 3 years before COVID. In fact, during COVID also, we managed to do a little bit of decent work. So yeah, it's been a short journey, around 3 years, but I've been extremely happy that I actually mustered the courage to start something of my own and, get into this space. So yeah.
Brilliant. I think one of the biggest parts of being an entrepreneur, one of the biggest parts about doing anything in the space of business or starting something of your own is taking that risk, and taking that leap. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So maybe we can hear from somebody else. Mr. Shah, if we can hear from you about your journey of taking risks and how you started your entrepreneurship journey. Acha, are you also struggling to unmute? Acha, okay.
Can you hear me guys now?
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
Just
Okay.
sorry, before you start, I'm going to ask Akash from the News Now Nation team to just unmute all the panelists in general so we don't have this difficulty again. All right. Sorry, sir. You can continue.
Okay, I'm doing. So, let me give a couple of minutes here. So, firstly, thank you to the team at News Now Nation, and of course to my fellow speakers, Dhawal, Mritunjay, Mousumi, Neeraj, and Sandeep. This is a great topic, right? It's the topic of the moment. Everything's in the news about how entrepreneurs have made it big in India. Of course, the IPOs of the startups that they're not really startups anymore, et cetera. So really, this is clearly a topic that's full of glamour and it's full of glitz, right? But I think this also got a lot of grit behind it. I think definitely all of my fellow speakers will confirm. So I'm really hoping that today, this fantastic panel is going to be able to talk about all the three aspects of entrepreneurship, right? Not just all the fancy headlines. You know what they say, there's no such thing as an overnight success. What we think is an overnight success takes normally 10 years, right? Ask Dhawal, how long has he been doing this? I've been working since I was 22 years old, I think, or 21 maybe. And entrepreneurs come in all shapes and sizes, right? Here's me, like a micro bite about me. I'm born and brought up in Allahabad, now Prayagraj. Yes, you can take a man out of Allahabad, you can never take Allahabad out of a man. You know what they say about that. I studied in university in Mumbai and Lucknow. By the way, I'm a lawyer by profession. God knows what I'm doing, running a business and creating ventures. See, there's no formula for this. I may be a lawyer by profession, but I'm an adventurer by passion. There has to be an adventure, right? Otherwise, why would you keep doing this again and again? The version one of me was a young entrepreneur at age 22. I didn't know anything, but I got the opportunity to build a business. Version two was when I left India, 20 years in the UK and Europe, the corporate me. And I'm not going to bore you with my CV. You can see that on LinkedIn. And the version three of me, the one you're looking at now, is the guy with the silver hair, who's now an entrepreneur all over again, right? So people often ask me, well, why did I become an entrepreneur? And this is a question that I want all of my fellow panelists to sort of explore. And I hope the audience will find this interesting. Why I became an entrepreneur was very simple. I wanted to be in charge, right? And I didn't want to be 80 years old or 85 years old and thinking, Are shayad maine wo kiya hota. Why didn't I do it? I didn't want a life of regret, right? And then along the way, and I hope my journey is not yet complete. I think there's lots more to go. I have three big lessons, and we'll delve in those lessons with the help of Mishri and Rhea as we go along in this conversation. But the three big lessons I have is the inherent risk involved in being an entrepreneur. I gave up a very comfortable life, earning many, many millions of rupees every year to chuck it all up to start something of my own. Why did I do that? So risk. The second thing is resilience. You have to keep at it. Yeah, you cannot give up hope. And the third thing is patience. Let's ask one day we'll get the chance to ask the Bansals from Flipkart how long it took for them to actually make it big. Yeah. Or indeed Dipinder from Zomato. It is patience. Patience is the name of the game. So three big lessons here. And so that's really it. And so I would love this panel to discuss what goes into the making of an entrepreneur. What is the key things that we've figured out along the way? The key things that India could do better, right? Of course, India is an exciting place to be an entrepreneur, but we all know India has lots of challenges too. And I hope we'll have a great conversation. So thank you guys once again, and let's open the floor to the other panelists.
Brilliant. I think firstly that was incredibly inspiring, I have to say. And as somebody who's a lawyer myself and is still not sure that is what I want to do, it's really inspiring to see people who are slightly older than me, shift from their career path and still be such massive successes. So thank you for that. I think one really important point that you said was, the word entrepreneurship and those startups and that whole space is a very glamorous world today. And you see it in newspapers and you see it all the time. And what people forget is behind the glitz and glamour, there's, like you said, the grit and the grind grind and the failure. So there are days that are good and there are days that are not so bad, I'm sure. I would love to hear from the rest of the panelists right off the go. Some of the challenges that they have faced through their journey. And I think that'll be a great way to, sort of make this panel a more honest and more relatable space that we can, an honest space where we share each other's journeys. So maybe this one we can start with Mousumi. Ma'am, if you would like to take this question and just talk about your challenges as a writer and as a poet and, in all your capacities. Oh God. I think my luck is spoiled. Whoever I ask have technical issues. Akash, can you please
Maybe
unmute,
we can
ma'am?
start with Mr. Dhawal then.
All right.
Yeah,
All
hi.
right. Mr. Shah?
Right. So, hi everyone. Thank you, Mishri, and thank you, Rhea, for hosting this, and thank you for my fellow panelists. So, I would say that struggles, when one faces, is probably a wrong word. We should all take what we have learned in the whole process, and we all know that at most of the times, it's important to fail to succeed. So that is what is important. And when we start with being an entrepreneur, we need to understand that there are 6 important things that I feel are very important. One is capital, that we need to arrange for a great team that we need to really work with and understand. Discipline. It's all about maintaining discipline. End of it in the environment that we are. Innovate ourselves and find new ways of marketing, which is how I've seen it all through the last so many years, that it's always changing. Monitoring our product and the quality, trying to give the best to the client, basically, and most importantly is under promising and over delivering. So yeah, I mean it's but it's end of it, we must enjoy what we do, and we must look forward to the next day every day.
Absolutely. No, yeah, that is true. There is a combination of enjoying what you do, but also having the discipline to do the things that you don't. Because I may be wrong when I say this, but I believe there are maybe there are parts of your business you really like. But when you're an entrepreneur, while you're also your own boss, you're also your own employee in the beginning. So you also have to do things that are not as enjoyable for you, which requires a certain amount of discipline. Maybe we can take the question. Maybe we can move on to Mr. Sandeep, and maybe you can share a little bit about how the role of discipline and the role of doing things consistently, and how that played a role in your entrepreneurship journey.
All right. Thank you so much. I would like to greet everyone a very good evening, and thank you so much, NewsNation and Mishri and Rhea, for the opportunity given. So if you ask me personally, I would say it is all about your mental health, primarily. So as young entrepreneurs, whenever we want to get into a business, primarily, we are overexcited and, we think that we can conquer things very fast. But we do not realize that we need to be really, really patient. As Mr. Dhawan very correctly said, that you need to be consistent and very patient to move ahead. So for me also, when I started my career, I was into a job after I came back from abroad. And then I decided one fine day that I would want to start up my own company of human resource consulting. And I wanted to do too many things at a time, which I realized was not possible as per the time was going and experience. And there were times of struggle where I wanted to give up and get into a different mode of my business. But then yes, somebody very wise advised me that you need to give it time and patience and be consistent to move ahead. And with a lot of consistency, patience, I realized that my potential was growing each day. So with the kind of an experience I was learning every day, I could only move up the ladder. So my personal advice to everyone is you should have at least 5-year or 10-year-old plan set when you're doing a startup, because first few couple of years would be a struggle, but then the results would come little later. So as we say, break even. So we need to calculate where your break even is, and until the break even you reach, you need to be really, really patient. Then
Yeah.
only you can move. So
Absolutely.
as of now, yeah.
Yeah. Taking calculated risks is a business, but taking uncalculated risks is gambling. And, that is something that is often said. And I think it's so true. You have to be patient for several years after you start, because you put in the effort now, but you get the results a lot later. For somebody who is in a creative space, ma'am, now that we have managed to unmute, I will address this to you. I think being creative sometimes requires a lot of mental health, like he said. You need to have the space to create mentally, and you also need to be really patient. Just to add on to what he said, would you like to add the role of mental health, the role of creativity, and where creativity and entrepreneurship come together for you?
So, at first, I would like to congratulate the entire team of News Now Nation for this initiative. Wonderful job. And yes, I would better term myself as an authorpreneur rather than an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? Yes, stepping up to entrepreneurship from being just a writer was indeed challenging. But as I always say that, do not trust your fears, as they would not lead you to see your strengths. So fear is always there because, I have been writing since a long time. And I remember when I was in the 3rd standard, my first, write-up was published. That determined what I wanted to be. But after being writing, then I realized that, I also started my career as a journalist in the TV channels and all. I worked for Doordarshan, All India Radio. But somehow something was, bothering me, listening to the editors, listening to the chief editors. I do not want that. I wanted to explore, I wanted to do something new. But that you cannot, because you are under someone, and you cannot explore and experiment when someone directs you to do. For example, if you're going to cover a news, if you're going to do some show, we are always directed by the chief editor, somewhere I thought, no, something I should do myself, where I would not be directed, but I would use my own brain, own creativity. And that was challenging indeed, but yes, blessed enough because I kept on working hard, and from being columnist to be to an author, then a author coach, these are all parts of entrepreneurship. And again, you are being an editor of the publishing houses. Then finally I realized I should open up my own publishing house, because I have learned a lot, and I know how authors are being actually fooled also. I'm a bit you can say a principled person. I follow ethics and principles a lot. And that pushed me to open up my publishing house. And, yes, patience, which, Amit Dhawan sir has already told. Yes, patience and perseverance. And you need to be adventurous too. I am a traveler. So I keep on traveling a lot. Every month you will see me. Every 2 years you will see me changing my location. That also helps me. Yes, mental peace. Mental peace is I sleep for just 2 hours. But let me tell you that actually do not add to my stress, because I keep myself mentally stress-free. How? By traveling, by being adventurous. So you keep on challenging your challenges. When you challenge your challenges, somehow or the other, you will be able to come up. Yes, planning is, of course, it is required. There was a time when I cried also after opening the publishing house. I was finding problem due to COVID, with the printer, I was not getting the books on time. The courier thing was getting delayed and all. I was worried. I thought, I do not know if I have done something right, if I have stepped into something right or wrong. But now when I realized that, yes, I'm encouraging so many budding authors, I'm publishing them free, I'm coaching them, and now prospering so well. So yes, I keep on challenging my challenges and challenging my limits. That's all.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Mr. Roy, if we can hear a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey, and also, if you would like to add on anything about self-doubt and, those moments in the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, jab you feel really like you're struggling.
Hello, Team NewsNation. Thank you for giving us opportunity. Welcome all of my panelists and Mr. Amit Dhawan, sir. Thank you so much, sir, being here. And I would like to say my entrepreneurship journey. Actually, I'm not from a business background family. Okay, I'm in 2009. I had started my career with Indian Health Organization, and in 2015 the company acquired by Aetna International. Then I have decided that I should start my some own business. Then I got idea to start on focus on preventive healthcare, because in India no one is focusing on preventive healthcare. We have second largest company in population in the world, but in the healthcare sector we our position is 170. This is very not good for India, not good for India. So we have decided to focus on preventive and healthcare, and then we started Cognate Health Services, and we have focused on preventive healthcare like health checkup, doctor consultation, telemedicine. That is all about our journey. And
Brilliant.
since 4 years, I have doing good, I think.
Brilliant. All right. Firstly, that was a great round of first sharings. I'm really grateful to have heard from all of the brilliant entrepreneurs here. I want to expand on something that ma'am had mentioned, and she spoke a little bit about ethics and principles. And often when people talk about business, and when they talk about business, they say you have to be ruthless. You can't, you have to be ruthless. You have to think, okay, it's my work and I have to do whatever it takes. I want to know, what is the role of ethics, morals, principles, and how do you incorporate those into your company when you are, the captain of the ship? Mr. Dhawan, sir, if we can start with you.
The difficult questions you give me, Mishri. So
Yes,
look, I am very clear about this, and there is, I think it's incorrect to say that if you're an entrepreneur, if you have your own business, you can do anything you like, or any sab chalta hai, and you can. So there is a difference between being proactive, between being quick to react and make decisions, and there's absolutely a difference between being dishonest and illegal, because it might work in the short run, but it will come back to haunt you in the long run. It simply doesn't work. And the second thing is, if you are going to be building something for posterity at least, or even if not, it's going to last at least your lifetime, if not, several generations, you have to build an institution. And that comes from the foundations. And those foundations need to be built on the simple values that we as humans should have, and we have, which is honesty, decency, compassion, empathy. These are not empty words. These are just simple things that you should live by. Is it okay to hire and fire people? Absolutely not. It is not okay. Does that mean that we should not fire people for non-performance? Absolutely not. We should get rid of people who cannot do. But at the same time, people who want to do but are struggling to, we should help them, right? So that comes from empathy. So the role of an entrepreneur, a business leader, is such a multidimensional role. You have to be the person in charge. It's a very lonely role, of course, as well, right? Because often there's nobody to turn to. And by the way, there's a sub-note here, which is often you think you're lonely, but actually you're not. There's lots of people around to help you, support you, guide you. You have to learn to ask. You don't know everything. You're only as good as the people you have around you. So getting the right team in place is kind of important, right? Yeah. So in this lonely journey, sometimes we get led astray. We might make mistakes and cut corners. But I think in today's India, where, as I think Dhawal pointed out so well, capital is available. When I started my life as an entrepreneur back in early 90s, I mean, capital was like so scarce. Milta hi nahi tha. Okay? If you didn't have family backing, there was nothing much you could do. Today, that's not the case. Thank God for that, right? So there's so much has happened. There's another point that I think it was Mousumi who picked up on, which I want to sort of elaborate a little bit, and maybe we can get other people to come in on it. It's about being your own boss. So theoretically, if you're an entrepreneur, you're your own boss, and therefore you don't have to, like Mousumi said when she was in, let's say, in media, AIR, Doordarshan, there's always somebody else or whatever. That is true. Funnily enough, even when you're an entrepreneur, there's always somebody else, right? Sadly, the first people are the people who have put their faith, your co-workers, your team. You're responsible to them first. The second people is the people who've put their money on you. whether it's the bank or the investor, right? They're sort of relying on you. The third people is your customers. You're making something or doing a service which they are relying on. So you are responsible to them. And I guess finally, you're responsible to your family because you're actually borrowing money, and more important, their future money, and of course also their time to do the thing that is driving you. So I'm afraid the bad news is that there's always somebody you have to answer to, even as an entrepreneur. The good news is that yes, those people are putting a huge amount of faith and trust on you to deliver, right? So those are really key things. And one more last point, Mishri, is about focus. I think Sandeep picked up on this. So patience and focus. Focus is really important. I learned this the hard way. When we start, and there will be some people who are listening to our conversation today who'll say, "Arey, I can do this, I can do this." Yes, we can all do this. But actually, it's been proven scientifically that multitasking is not what it's cracked up to be. Focus is really important. I learned it the hard way. I have the scar tissue on my back to prove it, that you have to focus, because if you don't focus, you lose money, you lose time, you lose your passion, you lose momentum and energy. So eventually you focus on something and then you build it. In the introduction, Rhea said that I started my company in 2019. She got it a little wrong. I started in 2016. In fact, on Saturday is our 5th anniversary. And we are dedicating this anniversary to we are calling it the National Field Worker Day. In this, what we do, guys, I don't know if you know this or not, is we basically make an application which helps, it's called Field Web, which helps small employers manage their field workers out in the field. The tragedy is, there are somewhere around maybe 14 or 15 crore field workers in India. Yeah, out of a population of 130 crores. And not a single day would we be able to live our lives, certainly in the big cities, also in the small cities now, without those guys and gals coming to you and delivering things or doing things, right? But do we even have a day to celebrate them? We don't. So our team decided in Field Web, we said we're going to dedicate our 5th anniversary and we are creating a National Field Worker Day in their, as a way of respecting their contribution. That's the thing. हम India में भूल जाते हैं, right? That how much everybody else means. So and by the way, I brought up this point from my point about focus. When you start focusing on what you want to do, then your mind becomes clear and you have laser focus or laser sharp, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, HD vision, so of what needs to happen. Sorry, I'm going on a bit, Mishri.
No problem.
Yeah. So let's hear from everybody else. Am I talking? I'm saying, यार अपना बॉस होना इतना आसान नहीं है. कोई ना कोई होता है जिसके लिए आप जिम्मेदार हैं.
Yeah. I think what you said was really interesting. I think when you're in a job, sometimes you're answerable to one person, but when you're running your own startup, you're answerable to maybe 500 people. You're answerable to your family. You're answerable to everybody who works for you. And I really love the point that you brought up about teams and how important it is to build that first team. Just so we go in a little bit of a coherence, everybody, so has made some brilliant points. So please feel free to add on to them. But just so we don't interrupt each other, Neeraj, sir, if you could tell me a little bit about how you built your first team and just add on to what sir said.
So, Mishri, I really like what Mr. Dhawan said. I totally believe in, ethics. It's very, very important to create a brand which has positive vibes around it. Because, in the short term, you can, maybe you can get a little bit of profits by being unethical. But in the long run, you need to create a brand. The brand identity is what is going to stay in the market. Coming back to team, yes, that's very important. Any product, any service that you want to deliver, you have to have a fantastic team, and you need to make sure that you nurture your team well. Like Mr. Dhawan said, that you need, if somebody's struggling, you make sure that you help them achieve what they're looking at. So these are the things that really is important. And what I have felt, Mishri, over the last 3 years, that there have been a couple of guys who are not that smart, but having pushed them and having given them the confidence that I'm behind you, I'm going to back you, you just go ahead and, I've got the results. So, team is certainly something that's really, really important if you're looking at a long-term, goal that you want to achieve. So, yeah, I mean, and of course, hard work is something that always goes along. There's no way that you can build a brand without working hard and focus. Totally believe on that. I would still say that don't look too far ahead. Set smaller goals, create reasonable, achievable goals, because that is what is going to help you go the long mile. If you're going to think too forward, it's going to be a little, I don't know. That's how we like to work. We like to push ourselves. We have smaller goals and we try to achieve those. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think a larger goal is a dream, a smaller goal
Yeah.
is what makes it a plan of action.
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. That was a great point. Would anybody like, I feel like I'm just pointing at people and putting them on the spot. So if anybody would like to speak, Mr. Shah, if you would like to add on.
So I'd just like to, talk a little more about entrepreneurship and how one should look at it. So, normally sometimes it's the problems that are the solution to your entrepreneurship. So problems that you're facing through what you've been working on probably gives you the right instinct of what you should do, so that you can change something in that industry or in the way people are looking at you. So like when I started about 23 years back, it was furniture, used to be an era of only carpenters. And, and then I was, in my 12th, I was also doing my internship with my uncle, who was an interior designer. And I saw that, for every site, it's a lot of carpenters, mysteries that you have to work with and be dependent on. And, that's when I decided that I would want to start a factory and, ensure that, one has to just place an order and gets everything delivered to his site. So of course, we've gone through a lot of struggle through the years and try to build and rebuild the model. But, today we are proud that we've almost delivered more than 1 million people sittings, and we've reached across the country and try to make business and life so simple for the rest of the people. And so I think that's that's the journey of an entrepreneur, to make the difference for the rest, and to make the whole journey worthwhile. So yeah, that's what I would actually want to just highlight.
Brilliant. Ma'am, would you like to add?
So I would like to add onto the point that, yes, nurturing talents. Yes, I would like to share my experience here, because during COVID time, when during the first phase, many youngsters lost their jobs, many were clueless what to do. So I always have the requirements of graphic designers and designers, because I need to, prepare the cover page, design the cover pages, the book design and everything. So I remember I hired one very, I will say he was not experienced. He had never prepared or created any book cover. But yes, he used to make websites and all. He is a graphic designer. So it is like, he approached me. I thought, yes, I should try and first teach him. And today, believe me, it's like in 1 year, he has been working with me and he prepares fantastic cover. So it is like, it's nurturing talent. Yes, you are, giving an opportunity to someone who is willing to learn. All right, I could have taken an experienced person too, but somehow I felt that he is in need. So why not teach him and make him work? And he has picked up, and the boy who never created any cover pages, now he has prepared, I think, more than 20-30 cover pages. So it is how we can nurture talent and give opportunities to the youngsters. We are all young now, we are still learning, but yet, we can, this nurturing talent is a very important point. We can really do this and help the people, the youngsters who are in really need, and we can teach them and, make them work along with us. And he is still with me and I'm still teaching him, and every day I'm giving him lessons, how should you, typesetting of a book design and all, and he's picking up. So this is, again, I loved And yes, Amit Dhawan sir has, yes, we are answerable to our clients. They would keep on calling, when will the book come out? When would be the editing of the book done? So many, sometimes you do not have time for yourself. You just think about others. All right, his book is coming out next. His book is coming out. Now, see, I have been trying to write my own book since 3 months. I have just written 3 chapters because I'm working on somebody else's projects. So this is how you are more concerned about others giving, because you feel like your clients should be, satisfied. They should be pleased. They should feel happy. This is what, when you become an entrepreneur, it is more about others than about me. As rightly said, Amit Dhawan sir, yes, you are answerable to so many.
Brilliant. Maybe about nurturing people and about, again, like training the rest of your team. Mr. Roy, if you have something to add, how can we sort of uh, take a team and make sure the entire team grows with you?
Is it to me?
No,
No,
I'll address
Mr.
it to
Roy.
Mr. Roy.
Yes.
Again, it's muted.
I think he disconnected in between. So
Okay, all right.
probably.
Akash will help till then. Mr. Sandeep, I'm sure you can take over.
Yeah. So you have to repeat the question
Yeah,
if you
I
don't
think
mind.
that is incredibly relevant to you. I should have addressed it to you, in fact, since you run a people's company. So maybe just how you build team, how you can, as an entrepreneur, train your team, build the team around you, and make sure that your team, people around you, grow along with you and grow along with the company and are exposed to opportunities of exponential growth.
Yeah. So exactly, I would again come back to what Mr. Dhawan said initially, that it is about hiring and not about firing immediately, right? So every person that you hire, you need to give them time to understand the workforce that you have, and gradually you have to, kind of make them understand the job role. Only then they will be able to deliver. But you cannot expect too much out of them initially and fire them. You need to be patient. Also, you have to understand what is delegation of roles. In startups and smaller companies, what is happening is we are expecting too much of multitasking from every individual, wherein we are not being able to perform on all the other facets. So we need to define the job roles and descriptions to individual and let them do what they are supposed to do. Usually, if an employee is sitting free for some time, what do? We give them some other work, but that should not be the way it should be. Let them do what they are supposed to do, and if they finish work on time, kindly leave them, or kindly let them enjoy the way they want to. Give them the leisure time. Do not force people to do multitasking, which is beyond their potential. You have to realize what we pay to the employees is as per what they are potent of. So we cannot expect too much of responsibilities from a junior level or a senior level or a mid level when they're paying an X amount of money. So it is not only about money. When the employee is there in your company, you have to take it as a family. You need to train them. As you train your family members to join you, you have to be calm, you have to be patient, you have to tell them what they have to do, train them and keep them. They will certainly make mistakes. Now it is up to your behavioral pattern, how you behave with them, how you come up with them. If need be, you could be strict, but most likely you have to be working as colleagues in a startup company or a smaller company, and then you would see the growth is humongous. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, Mr. Roy is unmuted. If you would like to add, sir.
I think
Actually,
Mr. Dhawan wants to say something.
It's okay.
hello. Yes, sir.
So go on, Mritunjay.
Actually, sir, teamwork is very important. Okay, because without team you can't do anything. If you are having your own business and you are ignoring your employee or your colleagues, then you can't grow. Including all of them, you can grow together rapidly. I think so.
So look, guys.
So we need to understand their problem, and we need to encourage. that is good for our business health.
The thing is, Mishri, that हम लोग Superman तो हैं नहीं.
Yes.
So सब कुछ अपने आप नहीं कर सकते हैं. But the very interesting point Neeraj made about, in startups, there's lots of multitasking and sometimes unfair pressure is put on people to do things. I kind of agree, but I have a slightly different perspective, Neeraj, which is that, there is clearly a difference between a more established organization, whether it's a corporate organization, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a not-for-profit, doesn't really matter. In a more structured organization, roles are clearly defined. The path and history is clearly defined. In the very nature of a startup is that things are uncertain. So to that extent, I'd like to say that, and in fact, when we take on people, we are very clear about two things in our business. First of all, we say, look, this is not an old company. At 5 years old, we're very, very young. You will be expected to do lots of things. If this doesn't work for you, then this is not the place for you. Because today in the world of startups, there's such a lot of activity happens. There's so much expectation, and the pace of change and competition is so incredibly hard. And investor expectation is very, very high. You need to have the owner mindset, is what they call it these days, right? So, and that, I'm afraid, translates into आज ये कर रहे हो तो कल वो करना पड़ेगा. It's quite highly likely. And of course, startups sort of mature and we should delegate. That's the other mistake. And Neeraj is super right about this. हम सब कुछ अपने आप ही कर लेंगे, सब कुछ अपने आप decide कर लेंगे. नहीं कर सकते. Right? We have to delegate and we have to learn to let go. But अपने बच्चे को छोड़ना इतना आसान नहीं होता है. That's the other thing, right? So, but yes, over time, you have to build as Neeraj as Sandeep, has correctly pointed out, you have to build a more process-driven organization where things are more systematic and structured. However, I would say, I think Dhawal might have an interesting view. 23 years he's been running furniture tech, and he's taken it from a newborn to a sort of full-grown adult and a mature adult now. Even there, I suspect there are days when things are a lot less structured and a lot more chaotic than he would like them to be, right? But that is what happens. I have had the pleasure of running, 5,000 crore businesses with 150,000 people. Even there are days when things are going completely nuts. It happens, right? So, hum to choti si company hai. The other way of ownership mentality. So in our business, and I'm sure in many of your businesses, we are a very small team. We are 40 odd people. Everyone, including the guy who serves us the tea and coffee, everyone has got equity in the business. That was a collective decision that everyone must have, not just the ownership mentality, but a piece of paper that says you are part of the owner team. And by the way, we've just, in our second round of funding, those pieces of paper are worth a fair amount of money. So I think there's a bit of a give and take, right? So where you have this opportunity to make value for yourself and your family, you also have to have the ability to be a little bit more creative, adaptive, aaj ye karna hai, kal wo karna hai. That's okay. Not for too long, hopefully, but for some time in the journey. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, guys. I don't know. I find that.
Yeah.
Right. I would like to add on to his point. Yes, regarding multitasking, I am doing multitasking. Being the director of my company, believe me, I am editing books also. I'm doing extensive editing also. I'm proofreading also. And finally, I'm deciding and publishing also. Sometimes the company demands also you have to do, and you have to take the responsibility also, because when you are a part of the company, yes, the ownership, sometimes you have to feel that, yes, that is my company, so if you can, train or groom your entire team to be one, like working as a one, then I think even the team wouldn't have any problem to take up responsibilities. The way you groom them is also very, very important.
Definitely. I think those are some extremely relevant points. While yes, and there are both perspectives both are valid, and both, have their own place in organizations. I think one works on one day and the other works on another day. So there isn't, one thing about entrepreneurship that is probably the most interesting is that there is no like rule book or formula that, if you do XYZ plus ABC, then you will get this result for sure. It's not like maths. Um, Everybody does what works for them, and everybody has success stories with a certain method. And for each success story, I'm sure if we do enough research, we can find stories of failure for like 10 others. So I think that's really interesting. But from this extremely diverse panel that we have very little time remaining. We were told very strictly that we have to wrap in an hour. So just in a last round of sharings, something I would like to ask. Before that, Rhea, is there anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I think we have a question from the audience, and if anyone else has a question, please free to write on the chat box. So we have a question here, which says that if any of the panelists would be interested in answering that, how is the experience that working in your business versus working on it in terms of delegating responsibilities or hiring people? Anyone? I think Sandeep, you have written, sure. So do you want to go ahead?
Yes, sure. So when we talk about working on your business or working in your business, there's a huge difference. So when we talk about working on your business, you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to have a vision to work on it. You need to make plans, goals, set your achievements, set your targets, and you have to make all your deliverables. And when you're working in your business, it means that you have to let your team work, let your employees work, and let them perform under your guidance, so that you can come up to a level of an achievement. That is the basic difference between when you're working on your business or you're working in your business. If you are involved in daily operations day to day, you will not be able to make further plans. So it depends on the size of the company. But yes, an entrepreneur has to work on the business and the employees have to work in the business. That's the primary difference.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think I hope that answers your question, Akarshit. And guys, if you all have any more questions, we are running out of time quite badly. So I don't think we can take a lot more. But in any case, you all can put them in, and maybe we can reach out to some of the speakers later and ask them to answer those questions. Just as we go towards the tail end of this discussion, for the benefit of the audience, if we could have a quick round where we just talk about, as entrepreneurs and as people who have had such prolific careers, if you can talk about one skill, that is any one skill that you believe has contributed the most to you as an entrepreneur, to you running your company, and has been most helpful, and maybe that is a skill that people in our audience will work towards honing. So Mr. Dhawan, can we start with you?
I cannot give you one skill. I can give you two skills.
Okay.
One is curiosity, jigyasa. You have to be curious about how things work. Ye kaise hota hai? That is how all good ideas are born. If Dhawal had never worried about why is it that India cannot do upholstered furniture, he was curious about that and he wanted to do something. And similarly, what I did. And the second thing I would say is listening. God has given us two of these for a reason. You're supposed to listen a lot more than talk. By the way, hearing is different. Hearing is your ears work, so you hear. You have to listen. Listen is active hearing, right? So you have to listen to your market. You have to listen to your customers. You have to listen to your colleagues and your team, and you have to listen to your investors. And of course, you listen to your families, your family ultimate boss, right? So that is such a key thing. Those are the two things.
Brilliant.
Sorry, not one.
No problem. Ma'am, can we move on to you?
I would also like to say two of my skills. One is creativity. Of course, without creativity, I wouldn't have become an entrepreneur today. Secondly, my principles and the straightforwardness I have. I do not beat around the bush.
Brilliant.
So it's like I do not waste time. Whatever I have to say, I will say, and this really saves time.
Brilliant.
So these are the two qualities which really help me to move ahead. And I also built that trustworthy factor with my clients, with all the authors, because you need to be direct. Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. And I think very true also. Um, Mr. Kumar, Neeraj?
Okay, so Mishri, you know, I would keep it very simple. I would just say build a product that stands out in the market it well, and be patient. You know, results will come. So patience is something that's very, very important. Second, I really feel a very important thing is you have to be a hard negotiator. People are going to pay the price if you have a product that stands out. You know, people do undervalue this trade, but that's very, very important as a business owner.
Yeah.
Those are the two things.
Respect your price. Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Mr. Roy, skills that entrepreneurs need to develop.
You must be like a good listener, and you need to a good researcher. You need to research about market, about what trend is going on, and you need to understand your employee as well. Absolutely. You need to understand your customer, because customer is always king. So you need to understand their requirement, what they actually want. This is the most common requirement you have.
Absolutely. Absolutely brilliant. Again, good listener, and also there was something about empathy. Is how I took it, because you have to understand your employee.
Empathize them.
Empathize with your customer and empathize with your employee. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mr. Sandeep.
Yeah, for me, if you ask me, first thing I would say that as an entrepreneur, you need to build up a team first. You cannot be working with a small set of people. So if you think there is work, you have to hire people. Hiring, because I belong from an HR consultant point of view, I would say that you need to hire people, increase the team, and then you will see your work is going faster. To grow, you need to have right set of people. So hiring is very, very important, number one. Number two, any kind of a business that you do or anything that you do in life, you need to have the right set of mental space. So again, as I started in the beginning, I said mental space, mental health. You need to focus on your physical health, which is very important. Once you are there in the physical health, your mental health will be better. Once your physical and mental health is in place, trust me, there will be no hurdles in whatever industry you do, be it IT, non-IT, financial, iron and steel, everything, you would exceed. So I would say to excel, concentrate on your mental and physical health also. These are two different things that people usually don't talk about.
Yeah, I think that was a very, I would say, an ignored part of entrepreneurship, you know, focusing on your physical health and focusing on making sure you are mentally and physically strong. Those were brilliant points. Thank you. Mr. Shah, we'll end with you.
Okay, thanks. No, I think all the panelists are very beautifully said. In fact, I've got a lot to learn from what we discussed over today. I would just like to put it in a very small way. I think change. This is something that COVID has really brought up for everyone. So change is something. It's the only thing that is constant, and adapting is the most important way of life today. So we need to embrace the change. We need to learn to work smartly. I think again, COVID has taught us this. You can be in any part of this world and work. So work smartly, learn to delegate well, because we've all kind of not been able to travel, and yet we've got work done, right?
Yeah.
So this is something very important. And I think also most important is don't be a jack of all, be the king of one. So that is what I would always want to.
Brilliant. I think all extremely relevant points, and all extremely diverse from each other, but also equally important, and also they like build onto each other. So I think I have learned a lot, but more than what I've learned from what everybody has said, I think all of the panelists have brought such a brilliant energy of entrepreneurship that I feel extremely inspired right now. So thank you everybody for speaking. Rhea, would you like to take over and just help?
Yeah, sure. Thank you everyone for joining for today's webinar. I'm sure we've all learned a lot of tricks of the game. I'm quite motivated myself, and I hope I can also be an entrepreneur someday. It has been a wonderful experience interacting with all of you. And I thank our esteemed audience as well who have joined us here and on Facebook Live. I myself have learned that quite a few tricks today, like how focus is the key and how to be creative and how actual curiosity, will help you build your product. So thank you. We have many more inspiring and cool stories on our website, newsnownation.com, and I request everyone to, go there and read all of them. Thank you, Mr. Dhawan, for your time. It was wonderful listening to you. I'm sure me and all the other panelists and the audience as well have learned quite a bit from you. And thank you to all the panelists as well for joining us. We had a rather engaging discussion today, and I look forward to many more interactions with you in the future. So thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.